good morning to Snehal and Megha. Guys, we also have Sanjiv coming in. He's a veteran in the US. He lives in SF. But before we talk about Sanjiv, let me introduce our panelists here, Megha and Snehal. Guys, Megha is an Indian. She was raised in India. She went to the US 2 decades back. She's a lawyer. She's an attorney in the US. She deals with a lot of different types of laws, ranging from real estate to entertainment to IP. She has a lot of clients who are of Indian diaspora in the US. She helps them set up offices in the US. She grew up in New York City, and she attended Columbia University, and she was raised in Mumbai and Delhi when she was younger. Megha has a passion for innovative viewpoints and strategizing for clients. She loves to write and speak. She's a lawyer, so of course she loves to speak, and of course puts her points across very well. Megha serves as a president of New York board for SERA, a non-profit organization based in New Delhi. Megha is also a founding member for TAI in New York. She's a founder and former board member of Sakhi for South Asian Women Association. Megha serves as an attorney and is a board member for Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan USA. Megha has been honored by the governor of US for her contribution in Asian American community. Her law school honored her for her contribution Asians in New York. And Megha has authored and published a book called How to Have a Business Presence in the US while being overseas, oceans away. Thank you very much, Megha. Thank you very much for coming over, and thank you very much for your time this morning. Really appreciate your time. We're gonna be we're having a lawyer on board who's gonna be giving us her experience, her insights. Sanjiv, hi, good morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. I was already on the webinar, but maybe as a attendee rather than as a presenter. So
Okay,
I was hearing you all, but somehow not able to join in.
Yes,
but
yes.
now
So
you
now you
send me
have
a
been
new link. Yeah, you send me a
you
new
have been
link.
promoted to a
Yeah.
panelist now.
Sure.
Congratulations. So I jump on to Sanjeev now. Sanjeev has been in the US for over 2 decades now. He runs a company called RFID for You, who is a techie and is in the RFID space. He loves to implement solutions for large organizations. His clientele is fabulous, phenomenal clientele. He got Department of Homeland Security as his client. He got Defense Logistics Agency. He got Johnson & Johnson under his belt. He got Fitbit, GE, NSA, NSIT, NSA, and NASA, Bureau of Census, Northrop Grumman, a lot of big brands under his belt. And he is exceptional business acumen. He applied research and program evaluation skills, and he is also avid traveler. He used to travel. He was an avid traveler, I would say. He used to travel 80% of his time, and even the air hostesses and the lounge folks started recognizing him because he was going too often. He would know which meal is there in which lounge, in which city, at which airport. That's Sanjeev. And Snehal is a founder and CEO of Action Data Systems. He has been in the software industry for 3 decades, and he has been inventing and innovating in the field of HR, payroll, workforce management software, BI tools, and other software industries. He also he's currently exploring a new venture in the tour guide software and IoT. And he's been fortunate enough to exit 4 companies in the past successfully. And that's Snehal on our panel. I'm going to put these sheets aside, and I'm not going to use any script. And now let me now, jump to Megha. Megha, thanks again for coming over. Thank you very much. You are an attorney in New York. Why did you choose to become a lawyer?
So Amit, first of all, I just want to thank you and Priyank and Photon Legal and my colleagues Snehal and Sanjiv and all our attendees, because I know all our time is valuable, especially during this COVID time. So it's great to have everybody on here today, and I commend you for coordinating it. I didn't want to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to travel. I wanted to just have a good time. And my father really came from the streets of Indore and made it on his own in New York. And so he said to me, "You have three choices. You either be a doctor, engineer, or lawyer." And since my physics and math was not so strong, I said, "Okay, fine, lawyer." So to me, being a lawyer was just a ticket to earn and satisfy my father, while I could spend time creatively writing and singing and dancing and doing everything else I enjoy. And somehow I didn't realize that I would get so involved in what I do, but I love what I do because I've managed to use it creatively. So to me, the law is just a tool to be able to give you pleasure and give you whatever experience you want to have, and just understanding and strategizing how to use those tools.
Excellent, excellent, Megha. Thank you very much. Snehal, you have been in the States. Now you are exploring a tour guide software. Why this software? What's your why to get into this business?
So it's a long story, but generally speaking, what I have learned and what I have done is you start a business, grow it for 5 years, maybe 10 years, and then sell it. And not hold on to that business forever, because I'm generally in technology business, and technology is it's like milk on the shelf. If you go to a convenience store, they put the milk that is going to expire, they keep it in the front so that it sells faster. And then the one that is a week long or 2 weeks long to expire, they keep it in the back. So the technology businesses are like that. They don't last for a long time. You have to grow it fast and sell it to somebody else at the right time, and then move on to something else. So when I sold the last business, we're looking for something else to do, and I'd identified 5-6 different things to do. And I follow a golden principle, that is, find a customer first before I go into that business. So
Excellent.
while I had identified 5-6 things, we were talking to 5-6 potential customer, one large customer for each one of those idea. And then that idea clicked well. One of the museums we were talking to came through, first call, and they came through saying, yeah, we want to do it. And then we sold it to them before we started making the product. And when we realized that somebody's ready, willing to pay for it, somebody's ready and willing to work with you, to develop it, to create it, to get started, it helps a lot to finish it fast. So that's how we are into this.
Excellent.
Of course, many other reasons, but
yes,
but this is the major reason, why go into a specific business, is to find a customer first.
Excellent, excellent. You know what? Today's discussion going to be great for one reason, because Sanjiv has been running the same business for 2 decades. I'm not sure how much he agrees with you. So there's one person who is saying, you know what? You don't make money while running businesses. You make money by selling businesses. Whereas Sanjiv has been a veteran doing the same business for 22 decades now, over 20 years. Sanjiv, how do you counter that?
Yeah, I think I somehow agree with Snehal on what he talked about in technology. Get an idea, and once you raise it up to a certain point, you can sell it. In our case, RFID, the technology which we jumped into is again by force rather than by choice at that time, because it was .com burst and all the technology companies were like just a deck of cards going down. There was nothing which was like, you can't even imagine like what was pre.com and what happened at the .com time. Nobody wanted to touch technology. There was an oversupply for everything. and we were doing a lot of security, a lot of wireless middleware kind of things, and that's how I started this company. However, at that point in time in 2000, nobody wanted to discuss technology. So we said we need to jump into something which is new and upcoming. And as Snehal said, we looked at nano, we looked at Bluetooth, we looked at number of other things which was upcoming, and RFID appeared to be one of the promising one. However, in our case, like RFID has been metamorphing into a different ways. Like when RFID started, everything was like the whole vision was Internet of Things. That's actually a person from Indian origin, Sanjay Sharma. He is a professor at MIT lab. He actually coined that word per se, Internet of Things, and everybody started using Internet of Things, which is now IoT, which people call it as. And that's what interested us quite a lot, and we jumped into RFID. But RFID itself as a technology has been changing shape, size, and things in a way different way. Like for example, when RFID was there was no smart devices, there was no iPhone, there was no Android devices, there was no cloud per se. Nobody was trusting information and sending across everything. I still remember when I was in a pretty high level conference, closed door meeting with Oracle in those days early, and they were not very sure about like how the cloud will form and how the cloud will go. Nobody was very sure. But now look, everybody talks about cloud. So technology itself is like innovating, and we have been innovating with it, though we are still doing RFID. But what we started doing at 2001 and what we are doing now is way different. Same thing like with HP, started with a calculator, and still they are doing enterprise computing and whatever they are doing today.
Excellent.
So it has been growing, and as Snehal said, we also even till date get like 5 offers a month to get a PE or get a acquisition. And even like I still remember one time one buyer actually came with a blank check in hand. And we said, no, we don't want to sell. And then he said, okay, we are going to send you an offer anyway. If you want to accept it, take it. Otherwise,
interesting.
So it's like, what you want to do. And, after so much time, you start enjoying what you are doing, So technology part is that it itself, it's so interesting that your yesterday is not today and your today is not tomorrow, so you can keep on growing in the same company. It depends upon like you can either package it, sell it, or you can just keep growing because technology itself is not stopping.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the insights, Sanjiv. Megha, we know you're an attorney, and none of what you're going to say today is going to be an advice or an opinion. We are saying it on record, because your advice and opinion going to change and matter from case to case. It may change, right? So, but the question to you is, there is a clear answer when somebody has a shop in the US and they want to start something in India. Let's say Sanjiv has a flourishing business in the Bay Area, and he has a big office in Coimbatore in India. For obvious reasons, he has an office in India. Why should somebody who has a business running in India should have an office in the US? What are the reasons that he should set up an office in the US? What are the advantages of setting up an office in the US?
So one of the main advantages of setting up an office in the US is credibility. Psychologically, when an American company or anyone in the US is dealing with you and they know that there is a US entity in place, it makes them feel there is some kind of accountability. The other part of it also is that if you're investing in anything in the US, or if you're marketing anything in the US, or you want to hire people in the US, and I don't necessarily recommend hiring as an employee unless you need to, but even with independent contractors or any other type of third-party vendors, it's much easier to do it from a US-based company. Having said that, you don't have to be in the US to do that. You can control and manage the company sitting in India. But psychologically and administratively, and especially for certain types of ventures where maybe you're buying real estate, or you're investing in a franchise, or you're just promoting your brand, it does make a big difference if you're physically, and I don't mean physically as a person, I mean where the business is formed in the US.
Excellent, excellent. Credibility and peace of mind for people who have offices in the US. Megha, a follow-up question on that. A lot of people in India are thinking of going to the US because of the dollars there, because there are a lot of investors there, because a lot of money, people are getting huge $1 trillion packages announced by your president. There's so much money, they don't know what to do with it. At the same time, there is also a community which is of course not able to get their share. On one of the articles I read was every day in the US, 2,000 people make it to the millionaire list. Every day you have 2,000 people making it to the millionaire list in the US. So should somebody come to the US because there are so many millionaires and because there's so much money, they can get the funding for the venture in US. If they're not able to get the same funding if they're not going to get the funding in India, should they be looking at the US for funding?
So I have a different perspective on the premise. I don't believe that you chase money. Money follows you depending on what you have to offer. So if it is a good concept, if it's a great idea, if you're filling a void, as Sanjiv mentioned or Snehal mentioned, if you are finding something that you can contribute or offer into the U.S. market, the money will be there. It's really, for every story you hear about people making millions in the U.S., the unemployment rate is extremely high right now in the U.S. because of COVID and other factors. So it's really just what you have to offer. But I do believe, honestly, that if you offer what really excites you and what you really think you can excel in because it excites you, people sense it and then the investors back it. If you try and fit into a square or a mold or imitate or mimic what somebody else is doing, people see that and they see through that too, and the money doesn't follow that.
Got it. Great. Excellent piece of advice, Megha. Sanjiv has shifted to a beach.
Yep.
It appears.
I
Excellent.
thought, let me give a little better, perspective with a bottle of beer and a beach, so that it becomes a little more informal.
Cool. Snehal, you have.
This is actually in Goa,
All right. Interesting. Snehal, you have had the experience of selling for companies in the past. Now, what would you advise people who are seeking funding at the moment in the US? What would you advise them?
So I kind of go with what Megha is saying is the last thing that you want to do in your business is take the funding.
Interesting. Very interesting.
It is absolutely the last thing that you want to do, because when you take the funding, you are actually giving up, 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. And then going through Series A, Series B, Series C, you are down to 10% or 20%. So yeah, sure, you went ahead and made $100 million business, but what you take home is only maybe 10 out of that 100. And then you pay taxes from it. So it's not a whole lot. So it is better, instead, my learning is that I'm not saying don't take it. I'm saying take it as a last choice. If you sense and if you see the traction and you see the opportunity that truly just purely by adding the money, you are going to grow significantly, then go ahead and take it. If not, try all other ways. So if somebody's starting out, my suggestion would be first start part-time. They're working somewhere, they're paying their rent, they're paying their mortgage, they have a car to pay, they have medical insurance that is paid by their full-time job. Maybe they can start part-time. If that doesn't work, then maybe husband and wife, one of the two quit the job and start the business. The second person still continue to work, so that the primary money that puts food on table continues.
Minimize your risk.
If that doesn't work, do something with your brother, with your father, with your mother, whoever can help and join.
Whoever has money,
Do
basically.
that. Yeah. Somebody in close family who thinks the same way, who trusts you, and who is not after you to take the money back right away.
Excellent.
So I
Great.
would do that first. I would do the part-time first. If these two things, and along with these two things, look for the project. Going back to what I said earlier, is look for the customer first. Don't spend the money to create a product or develop a product. Outsource the product or a prototype creation to somebody in India so that it happens at a lower cost and you don't have to worry about it as much as if you do it on your own. And then use your time and your effort and when you are in US to spend your time with the customer who wants to create that product. So that's my suggestion. Somebody who is starting out, this is what I would recommend. This is what I did, and it worked for me. Maybe it'll work for others.
Interesting. Cool. Those are some good pieces of advice, how to minimize your risks. Let me launch the first poll question so that we involve the audience as well. You guys can also answer the question. All right, so I'm launching the poll. Here you go. The first question is, do you require a US nationality to start a company in the US? I'm gonna end the poll in about 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm gonna give you 2 more seconds. Okay, I'm very generous. Okay, I'm ending the poll now. So there are still people who think that we need a US nationality to have a company in the US. Megha, what do you say about that?
Yeah, sure. You do not require a US nationality to have a company in the US. You can be an Indian national or a national anywhere else. You don't even have to physically come to the US to have a US company. I'm just going to add to this, Amit, there are a lot of myths around that people have, and no blame to anyone because that's what they hear. But you don't have to be a US national. You don't need minimum capital. You can have a bank account here without having a local social security number, which is kind of like a PAN number. You don't need to have that. There are ways to have a bank account here. The cost to start a company is minimal. It doesn't take more than 24 hours to start a company in the US. And it can be managed and controlled from outside. You can be on the board of directors. You can be making decisions sitting in India. That does not make you have US tax implications to do that. So there are just a lot of, things that people do come up with. These questions are very common, but yeah.
Sure, great. In a follow-up question to you, Megha, on that, suppose somebody has a company in India and they want to start a company in the US, what document do they require?
So the documentation would actually be whatever filing is being done in the US. And it doesn't actually require documentation from the Indian company to start the company in the US, meaning to file it, to form it. Eventually, the documentation that would be the most important is between the two companies, because you do have to have a business purpose to be having the company in the US, and especially if money is being remitted to India. So it could be a marketing agreement. It could be an IP license agreement where you're licensing the US company to either market for you or use your IP. There are many reasons you can have it, but that documentation is important. That between the two companies. But to form the company, you don't need any documentation from India.
Excellent, excellent. Moving on to Rajiv. Rajiv, how is your business in the last 5 months? What are your learnings?
We have seen downturns before, and fortunately for us, it has not affected up till now as a business in terms of revenue, in terms of growth or whatever we were expecting. Of course, everything is slow. The business decision makings has become slow, but it has not directly impacted to us right away. But learnings has been that we are expecting that the slowdown is going to come in one form factor or another in next few months. As you suggested that there are a lot of tons of money right now flowing from the treasury to a lot of people, consumers, businesses, and that is keeping a lot of businesses afloat, and that is not giving, in my personal opinion, impact directly to number of companies' top lines and bottom lines per se. But eventually, a lot of industries which we don't cater, but like for example, hospitality, so the hotels, the entertainment industry, they actually got restaurants, they got impacted quite heavily. Technology companies has not been impacted that heavily yet, and people are rather relying on technology. People are rather relying on autonomous, technologies like RFID, which is non-touch technologies to implement certain things so that they can have less human interactions.
Excellent. Snehal, as humans, we tend to procrastinate, right? We say, okay, we're going to do this tomorrow, in 6 months, in 5 months. I'm sure people procrastinate. Everyone procrastinates something because they're not their priority. Let me put it that way. Were there certain projects? Were there certain ambitions? Were there certain tasks which you procrastinated, but you now in the last 5 months you found time to work on those things, work on those ideas, work on those projects? Were there any of those things which you took up in these last 5 months, which you have been procrastinating since forever?
Yeah, many, many of them.
Many of them? Interesting. I'm glad you said that.
So
what were those?
One of the business that I'm actively involved in right now is in the tourism industry, and like any other COVID affected area, tourism stopped in middle March or late March. It completely stopped, and April, May, and June were practically zero.
In the US, you are saying?
In the US, yeah. In the US, I bet tourism stopped all over the world, but this business is only in the US, so it stopped in US. So we had
I was interviewing some candidates, some people day before yesterday in Florida, and they said they have a lot of people on the beach in Miami. There's so many people on the beach. People are coming back in open and doing all their stuff. Is it opening now?
Yeah. So there is some activity there, but I'll put it this way: it is at 10% of what it should have been.
Okay.
However, what we did was we spent a lot of time and effort on. We focused everybody on developing new products during this time, and we created products that would be useful when people start to come out of COVID. And we kind of realized that COVID is not a digital. It's not that till today you are in COVID and from tomorrow onwards you are going to be out of COVID. There's going to be a lot of gray line. It's going to be cyclical, up and down. You are in COVID, you're not in COVID, you're in COVID, you're not in COVID. So more or less till the end of the year or till maybe even next March, the COVID era will still continue. And so we focused on a specific type of product that when people are in COVID, they can use. We started doing self-driving tours, which is safer in many ways, but at the same time, it's new and it brings new revenue, and they have taken off really well. So we learned and worked, during that time, and now we have a new set of products, that can operate in COVID.
Excellent. You are averse to the idea of taking somebody else's money. When I say that, I mean investor. But you're also very keen on selling your businesses. You wanna build a business for 4, 5, 6, 7 years and then sell it off. One of the theories that we learned is that you get an investor on board, and he's gonna make you run at 200 miles per hour, and make you do 20x because he has put his money and he's gonna be putting a lot of pressure on you. So if you have not taken somebody's money, how do you sell your business? Is it easy or difficult to sell businesses if you have not taken somebody's money? If you're not
If you've not taken, if you've not taken money, then it is a lot easier.
It's a lot easier.
It is a lot easier because when a new investor comes in, they are coming into a very clean, structure of the company. There is nobody else they have to worry about, nobody else they have to take care of. It's just one family, and that's all it is. So it is a lot easier, a lot simpler for somebody to buy out when you don't have. So ideally, no investors, and ideally very minimal number of employees, and outsource everything you can upfront. So that number of employees are less, number of investors are less. No real estate is on your company's name. Very little hard assets are there, mostly IP and mostly customers and contracts. And then it makes it very easy to sell.
Excellent. That's a great piece of advice. Thank you so much. Let me ask my next poll question. So the next question is this. Here you go. What is your biggest hurdle in starting your own venture in India or US? Lack of funds, lack of experience in business, fear of losing everything, lack of support from family and friends, no market information. Why people are reluctant to, in other words, why people are okay having a mediocre life. I'm not saying everybody who is doing a job is having a mediocre life, but then there are a lot of aspiration, ambition that you can fulfill if you are an entrepreneur, if you are running your own firm, because there's no ceiling. You can achieve whatever you want to achieve. So I'll end the poll right now and I'll share the results. We have a lack of so it says 64% people feel that they do not have enough experience in running a business. Interesting. Some are feeling that they will lose everything. Some are saying they don't have support from family and friends. I'll stop the results now. Sanjiv, you have been in tech business for 2 decades. What would you advise? Did you have a lot of money in your pocket before you started, or did you start with confidence, without much money, but with an ambition? What do you need more? You need confidence or need more money?
So as Snehal said, you don't need money to start any business. You need ideas. Money follows.
Excellent.
But since I was living in US with family, and living and supporting family requires money. So yeah, fortunately I had good cushion to support. It takes time to build up the business. It takes time to acquire customers. It takes time to, run through various compliance issues. And particularly, I was fortunate that I was running few companies before I started this company. So I had a good experience. My earlier company was with some partners, which was actually acquired to Utah-based company. So I had, good experience in running the businesses both here in US, and before coming to US, I was running a networking company, a technical company, a US company. I had opened their liaison office in India, and I was very much familiar with compliances and things like that. But it takes time. However, I strongly agree with Snehal that you don't really need a lot of money if you have a good idea. There are a lot of precedents where billions of dollars has been spent to acquire companies with minimal number of employees, just a good idea and great customer base. It all depends upon the timing. It all depends upon what you have and what you offer and what you want to do with it.
Excellent piece of advice. Megha, somebody who is setting up an office in the US, and also has a great idea. So there are a lot of, so they say 60 or 60-70% of the companies shut down in the first year. Then just only 10% companies are able to cross the 3-year mark or the 4-year mark. What's the, so as a lawyer, uh, when companies shut down, uh, what's the primary reason for companies shutting down in the US?
So I have to tell you, Amit, that actually none of the companies that I represent or that we started have shut down. And the reason is because they're practical, they're cautious, they're flexible, and they're resilient. Any business anywhere, you need resilience, you need patience, you need to build it, and you need to adjust. COVID was a perfect example of that, right? So I do believe that COVID is testing certain industries no different than, you know, business tests industries in terms of the market. So when I do see companies that don't do well in the US, it's usually because they run too fast, where they're not ready to jump into the next step, or they are not guided by their own intuition or their practicalities. They try and follow or mimic others, thinking that if I just copy this person or if I just do what other people are telling me. So I feel, if, you know, businesses survive very well when they listen to their own voice and you know, do what's best for them.
Excellent. Excellent piece of advice there. Snehal, there's a concept in India for sure that you should not be worrying about the bottom line, the profits, but you should just worry about acquiring and getting more customers. Get more customers, burn more cash. Get more customers, burn more cash. What's your advice to people who are just in the business of acquiring more customers, burning a lot of money, without thinking much about profitability, without thinking much about the bottom line? What would you advise them?
So there was a time that I didn't believe that was the right thing to do, but I have been proven wrong.
Okay.
You know, a lot of companies, including Facebook and Uber and number of companies, have done exactly what you just said. You know, they've kept on acquiring customers and continuously acquiring customers to no end, and they have been continuously selling their own shares at higher and higher price, and that is how they are funding themselves. Is they keep on selling their stocks, and the whole business model is different in the sense that because they are growing so fast, their value is going up so fast, and so the next investor is coming in at 10 times the valuation of the previous investor. So they are able to do it. So it is a business model that some people have been able to successfully do. I have not done it. Having said that, it is an interesting model to study. You need a different type of guts to be able to do that. But I have invested in those companies, some of those companies. So,
so you
so
don't want to do it
people
first
do
time.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, people do it.
people
It's
do it
not
all the
that people
time.
don't do it.
People do it
Yeah.
all the time. Megha, what would you say about this? What's your take on this?
So I actually really admire the companies that do that, and to give sales perspective, I am invested in some of these companies. But I think that their marketing is superb, so that you do just want to use their products or use their services. And I do think, and this was something, again, coming back to COVID, which I noticed, there were certain things that we absolutely needed and we were not going to do without. And those were not what we call the basic essentials, like the medical or the health and that type of thing. These were just our personal, like, preferences, you know, a particular coffee, a particular bread, a particular car ride. And if, you know, our laptops, our Zoom calls. And so when you look at the correlation between what we as customers or just average people felt that was absolutely essential, those are the companies that really, really prospered during COVID, because they somehow convinced us, even before COVID, that their product was essential for us. And so it became essential even if we were, you know, in this situation. So yeah, and I think kudos to them for being able to convince people and also to see that in the future. And I think a lot of that has to do with the human connect. Is like there is a human perspective in how they are taking care of you. You know, whether it's Amazon or Uber or yeah.
Interesting. You know what? I read somewhere in the month of April itself, Uber fired a lot of people. Oyo is one again a unicorn in India. They have Oyo hotels. Their valuation over $10 billion, and their revenue is about $900 million a year. They fired people just in 45 days. Unicorns like Airbnb, they fired people in 45 days. Uber fired, Airbnb fired people, Oyo fired people. A lot of unicorns who are like worth billions of dollars, who have stacks of cash with them, were not able to sustain COVID for 45 days. Sanjeev, what would you tell them? What's happening? I mean, why giants like Ubers and Airbnbs and Oyos having unicorn status are not able to sustain 45 days of COVID?
So two things. One is the business model. What business model they had covered, that also dictate or tells the founders, owners, CEOs, management that do you want to burn the cash and acquire customers, or do you want to always look at the profitability and acquire customer based on the profitability? Second part, which is there is the business conditions and the investors, as Snehal said, that the moment you start getting investors in, they are managing your books, they are managing your business models. So there is you are not on your own to make a gut decision. You're totally decided by the board, you're totally decided by the investors, who are going to tell you, like, listen, this much cash we can give, and we have to save whatever we have, and go to the next step. That's the most important part, which happens. Then your overall strategy is all decided by the investors, who are actually your shareholders. So depending on the company structure, I think these models are taken. Or the companies like Oyo, companies like Uber, they are heavily invested by number of shareholders, and they decided that they are not going to see a upturn for quite some time, though whatever publicly they may be saying, because these industries got hit very, very hard. People are not going to go back to number of things in a business as usual. So they want to cut their cost, and they want to make sure that they can sustain. Airline industries are the same thing. They are on a oxygen in US and many, many other countries, but how long you can keep on flying with 20%, 30%, 40% occupancy?
Right.
Hotels,
Sure.
At the end of it, like, for any business, at the end of it, you have to make money at some point of time, right?
Right.
Whether you actually acquire customers and become so big that there are not a lot of choices which are available in the market. That's some of the companies which are doing. They're becoming so big, they're acquiring customers, they're acquiring, things,
Companies.
so that they become so large that there are no other options. But at some point in time, they have to make money.
Excellent. Excellent. Let me launch one more poll question. Right. It's an interesting one. All right. Do you think it's possible to run multiple businesses without compromising on attention and quality? So Snehal has had multiple businesses. Were you running them simultaneously? Were you running them one by one? Let me
No,
see.
never simultaneously.
Never simultaneously. Okay.
Yeah, it is not. It is difficult. I'm not saying it is impossible. It is difficult to do it.
Yes.
Generally, you focus on one business and you focus it so fully that it becomes, successful, and it achieves whatever numbers you want to achieve, and then you can exit. On the other end, there are times, like right now, I am involved into 3 or 4 businesses, but I am only involved. I am not running them. There's somebody else running them. I am, in one case, I have invested in it. In other case, it's my family's, my son or daughter's business. in third case, it's a cousin's business that I'm helping or whatever, you know. So I am not on the phone calling a customer. I'm just giving an advice or something like that. So I would say my answer is, you know, focus on one thing and get that done.
Excellent, excellent. Megha, you are a real estate lawyer in the US, and so people who have, let's say, companies in the US, should they be investing to real estate in the US? Should they not be? How should they go about it?
So, Amit,
And
that's an interesting question because, you know, as you probably know, the real estate market has gone down in the U. I mean, especially, you know, in New York and most places everywhere because of COVID. But what has happened is, you know, there is a pattern in real estate here where, you know, you have sudden crashes like in 2008 with the recession, and then it goes really up again. And the same thing with the late 80s, early 90s. So I believe that especially in the US, the infrastructure is so good, so that there's always, if you can hold on to it, and there's always the possibility to hold on in terms of renting it out if you can get a tenant. So I do believe, and I believe that if one has the stomach for it, this is the best time because the prices have really come down. But it doesn't mean the infrastructure has gone down, right? So, and typically what's happened is that when the local, you know, Americans cannot afford to buy or they're hesitant, foreign money comes in. So whether it's Indian or Chinese or Russian or whatever, Eastern European, people will come and buy. So it's just a question of, you know, going for it. And coming back to what we talked about, virtual businesses, I have a lot of clients sitting in India and Singapore and UAE who actually own real estate here, but don't physically come here, you know, and so everything is managed virtually through people on the ground here to rent it out and collect the money and make the payments and whatever have you. And it allows for money generation or cash generation in the US without somebody really having to pay attention to it, sitting in India and just getting regular reports on what's going on. Yeah.
excellent, excellent. Great. Before we end, I want to ask Sanjiv. Sanjiv, there are a lot of people who are who are wanting to start businesses. You said all we need is a good idea. What else do you need? How? What is your success mantra? What do you focus on most in your business? What are two things you focus on most on your business to make your business successful?
A good idea, which means a good product and customers. You know, if you have both, you know, everything else follows. As Snehal said, that he actually first tested the idea with a customer, got the client, got the whole thing rolling, and then floated the whole product. So you need a good idea. You need a customer who believe that this is a good idea. You know, otherwise, if you're making a product, you end up making 2 years into a product and then find out that there are no takers.
Excellent.
You know, you waste a lot of time, you waste a lot of money, energy. You know, I think idea and customers are the
A
most
lot of
important.
people who start their businesses think and believe very strongly that the idea is good, and it's not just good, it's great, it's terrific, it's a unicorn idea. What do you advise them?
No, I think it's
How do you know you're wrong?
that is correct. I think the more important part is that, you know, of course, you have to first convince yourself. If you're not convinced on your idea, who else will be convinced? You have to be passionate about it. If you're not
Yes.
passionate, you know, then nobody else will be passionate. The second part, which will be more important, is that, yes, you know, then that's where the friends and families and even mentors comes into picture. Like, for example, you know, Indian affiliation, there's a Thai conference, you know, which has a lot of mentors, and, you know, they are the people who has actually run the businesses and, you know, seen the market, and, you know, you throw your ideas to them and you say that, okay, if I'm going with this, what should be my pitch, you know? And a lot of time what happens is, if you have a good idea, the end product is usually much different than what you started with. you are ending up with certain different thing, but you started your journey with something, but when you reach and you talk to the customer and customer's requirement is there, you are flexible, as Megha said, that you need to be adaptable, you need to be resilient, you need to see what actually market is demanding, and you change your tune according to that. You change your product idea suiting to what your customers are, what the market is needing, and then that becomes your success. You have few
Excellent.
marquee customers that will give you a lot of good references.
Excellent. Uh, Snehal, you have uh, the experience of scaling 4 companies in the past. What is your success mantra? What would you advise our budding entrepreneurs who are still thinking about starting, who has just started? What should be their obsession? What should they be focusing on the most?
So I actually made a list because I knew you were going to ask this question.
Bring it on.
I my At least what has worked for me is to focus on the US market and not focus on the India market, unless it's a market that you really know well in India, or you have family in India who understand that market. But otherwise, sitting in US, 9 out of 10 people in US think about, oh, I will create a product and I will sell that product in India. That doesn't work. India is actually far, far, far more difficult market. US is a lot easier market. So that's number one. Number two is to pick an industry that is large and growing. So not to pick an industry that is shrinking, but to pick something that is a growing industry. Third is going back to what Sanjiv said, is identify a problem, feel that problem, make sure that the problem exists and it is applying to the whole market, and then try and solve that problem with the new technology that is coming up, not with the old technology. Somebody was doing something with the old technology. Now you try and do that with the new technology. And then the fifth one and the last one that I have learned is to come up with a business model that brings recurring revenue. And what I mean by recurring revenue is, first year you sell $100,000. Second year, that $100,000 should repeat from that same customer without you doing anything else. So if that repeats, then whatever new effort you put in truly adds on, and the previous business continues. So that recurring revenue is a trick. I mean, even simple things like, I forget who was that, but the guy was selling shaving blade. Okay, I mean, of course, yeah, there was a problem of how you go about buying shaving blades in US. It's a nightmare about how you go around and buy it, unless you're buying it online. So he started the business. So he definitely saw that it's a large growing industry. Problem is there. The new technology that he brought in was nothing but a recurring revenue business model. I mean, selling online, but a recurring, every month or every 15 days, you will get the shaving blade in your mail. And he ultimately sold that company for $1 billion.
To Gillette.
Yeah. So all he was doing was, recurring revenue is what brought it.
Excellent piece of advice. You said,
yeah, recurring revenue is very critical.
Excellent. You said focus on the US market. A problem which exists in the US, we always think, you know what, if I do this in India, this is going to make me $1 billion, because India is such a large country, so many people will buy this product. But it's very apt to suggest that something that works in the US has high likelihood of failing in India. That's a great piece of advice. And I'm not saying all ideas that work in the US will work in India and vice versa, and all ideas that work in the US will not work in India and vice versa. So, but that's a great piece of advice. You must understand which market you are in. You must enter into a large market which is growing. You must solve a problem which you feel, and you can solve a problem in a better way with the new technologies and recurring revenue. That's a superb takeaway. Recurring revenue without you getting up from your bed, you're getting your money. That's what putting businesses in autopilot mode. Megha, we want to come to you for the last and final words. What's your advice to folks who want to build businesses in the US or in India? What should they be focusing on?
So I would agree with what Sanjiv and Snehal have both said. But I think the route that I would focus on is I really do believe that each one of us is born with certain qualities, and those qualities we would just keep doing for free. You know, the Japanese ask that question, you know, that what would you just do for free all day because you just love doing it? And to really tap into that as a first. So the Gillette example, you know, it's like you don't think of that unless you have either had that problem or you have seen somebody and you've experienced the pain of that problem. So when you're looking at the market to see where the void or the problem is, first look at what would you do for free all day just because you so enjoy it, because that's what gives you the resilience and the staying power and the ability to market, because you can really feel that. And then look at the void or the problem in the market and see where is that intersect between what I would do all day long because I really just love, that's what I do. Like, I'm a tree, I grow mangoes. Mangoes is what I will do no matter what. And then see where mangoes are needed or necessary, or what kind of mangoes I have to grow to make that difference. And then everything else that people have agreed on, said. One other thing, Amit, which I see a big void in, that Indian companies have trouble in, even the large tech companies that many of whom I represent, is that they're not empathetic to the human experience. How am I using your technology? What am I feeling? You know, what is my experience? This is something. So I feel in India we focus a lot on the knowledge and on the quality and the confidence, but how are you delivering that for a human experience is what I think makes a big difference too.
Excellent, excellent piece of advice. Being empathetic and being looking for your passion basically, and seeing what you love doing. And if you love doing something, you're gonna succeed. There's no doubt about it, no matter what you're doing. And one of the things that we believe in Photon Legal, I'm patent attorney, and we focus on a lot. We are obsessive about adding value to our clients. I mean, we want to make sure that how can we add value, what innovation can we do, how we can improve their experience, how we can care for them, how we can delight the experience, how we can make our customers our fans. You know, customers come and go, clients stay with you for some time, fans love you. So how we can make our customers our fans, I think that's what we believe in Photon Legal, adding value and being obsessive about adding value to our clients and to our people at home, when I say in our office. So that's about it. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you very much. I am so glad we could meet today morning, and you guys are such givers, with all honesty, with all reality, with all impromptuness. You're answering questions with no hesitation. Thank you very much for that. And I cannot be thankful enough. Thank you so much again. We're going to be, this video is getting recorded, and we're going to be soon shooting you out a YouTube link for the same, so that you can circulate it among your network. Thank you so much again, and have a fantastic day ahead.
Thanks, Amit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Have a good
Appreciate
day.
it. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.